Heat shivers above black glass canyon. Light crawls down walls of polished basalt and pools in the dry riverbed called Break Promise Wash. In that glare, skin swells around steel. A cable bites deep into a young elephant's foreleg, the braid of wire pressed to bone, the edge slick with dust and blood. Her breath comes shallow. Each shift tightens the snare. Each heartbeat spills more red into the red earth. A man steps out of the mirage. Boots sink in powder. A cantilever of shadow slides across his shoulders as he kneels. He sees what the wire has done. He sees how the loop has fed itself, how the ground has hidden the anchor. He lifts his canteen and lets a thin ribbon of water trace the elephant's cracked lip. Her ribs rise and fall. Her eyes hold steady. Trust asks for nothing and still demands everything. Overhead, vultures draw wide circles against a white sky. Along the canyon rim, a single cottonwood trembles. The wash is quiet, but the silence is not kind. He studies the weave of the cable. The steel is old, but not weak. Someone set this trap long before the rains failed. Someone meant it to vanish under dust and still do its work. Movement touches the edge of the frame. A bobcat stands on a black rock shelf, tail low, ears forward, one forepaw held light as if memory still lives there. The cat watches the man, then the elephant, then the ground between them. It does not crouch. It does not flee. It simply looks, as if reading a map only it can see. The man tears a strip from his shirt and packs the wound above the wire, buying minutes, not hours. He checks the lay of the land. Basalt shelves. Driftwood trapped from a storm years ago. A fallen fence post rusting in two. He counts the things that might turn into levers. He counts the things that might break first. Steel cut skin. Trust must cut deeper. The sun climbs. Shadow shrinks. Flies find the heat. He clears stones from around the leg. Palms raw, knuckles open. Beneath the dust he feels something else. Not cable, not bone. A hint of iron fixed in the earth. A buried point that drinks the tension and gives nothing back. The anchor is down there, locked under plates of lava rock. If the ground keeps it, the circle stays. He looks up. The bobcat drops from the ledge and pads into the riverbed. It moves with the care of a creature that has learned to make itself small in a hungry world. It stops a few strides away and lowers its head. One paw reaches out. Claws rake a single line through powder. Then another. Then a third, crossing the others. A small cross cut into red dust. Not a warning. A mark. The man studies the sign. The elephant steadies her weight. Vultures drift closer. The wash holds its breath. Tell us where you're watching from before the story unfolds. The bobcat scrapes again, deeper this time, right where the dust darkens. The ground gives a metallic whisper. Beneath that thin skin of red, something buried waits to be found. He works the earth where the cross is scratched. Fingers in dust, then a flat shard pries deeper, then a short-handled trowel from his pack. Powder gives way to packed clay, then to gravel fused by old rain. He follows the bobcat's mark as if it were a compass. A lip of iron shows. He brushes it clean with the back of his hand. Not cable. A buried staple sunk through a ring into stone. The canyon kept the trap alive. The elephant shifts. The loop bites. He slides his body between her knee and the earth, turning himself into a wedge of steady breath. A strip of cloth takes the new blood. He keeps digging until his knuckles find the cold shape of the anchor. One side is pitted. One side is bright where tension has rubbed it for months. The edge hums with strain he cannot see. He will not pull this free with hands. He needs a machine built from what the canyon gives. A cottonwood limb lies bone white along the wash, straight as a spear and hard as old bone. He drags it over, lashes rope around the cable, and winds the rope around the limb. A Spanish windlass takes shape, simple and stubborn. He plants the limb's butt against a basalt step, forces the first turn, then another. Rope creaks. Cable rises a breath. The elephant exhales into the slack he creates. Dust lifts from her hide in a faint sigh of relief. A cat drew a map to mercy. He holds the progress with a hitch and scans for more leverage. The bobcat is already moving. It pads toward the fallen fence on the far bank, leaps the wash, and vanishes into a tangle of rust and wire. When he climbs after it, he finds what he needs. An old turnbuckle fused to a sagging strand and a corroded steel pin half buried in weeds. He works the hardware loose, soaks it with canteen water, knocks mud from the threads with his knife spine. The cat watches as if inventorying each tool for what comes next. Back at the windlass, he splices the turnbuckle into the system, one eye on a rock stake, the other clipped to the lifted cable. A few cranks lengthen the gain of each wooden twist. He leans his weight, shoulders braced, thighs shaking. The cable rises another finger width. The elephant's trembling slows. A thin ring of dry skin shows where steel has lived too long. Steel cuts skin. Trust cuts deeper. The turnbuckle complains. The threads grind. The wooden lever chews into rope and threatens to skip. He stops, breathes, rewraps the line, adds a second stake to share the strain. He changes the angle by a handspan so the draw lifts the loop, not the leg. Then he winds again. Small pause. Vast courage. The bobcat trots to the rim of shade and stands guard. A pair of coyotes ghosts the far gravel bar and melt away under its stare. Overhead, vultures adjust their circles. The canyon waits for a decision. The lever takes another turn. The rope fibers darken with sweat and dust. His palms open in bright slivers. He bites cloth with his teeth, binds his hands, and keeps going. The cable rises enough to let a hacksaw blade skim the edge of the loop. The angle is wrong. The teeth skate. He stops before a mistake becomes a wound. He repositions the lever, wedges a flat stone under the anchor to tilt it, then feeds the blade into the tiniest of gaps. Back and forth, back and forth. Each pull speaks through bone and tendon. The cable warms under friction. Metal dust settles on his wrists like black pollen. He pauses to wet the elephant's lip. She finds the ribbon of water and holds. He presses his shoulder to hers a moment longer than needed. A quiet agreement lives there now. He returns to the turnbuckle and cranks another quarter-inch. A twang runs through the system like a warning. The old threads begin to bow. If they fail, the cable will whip back onto raw flesh and end everything they have bought. If they hold, the blade will finally have room to bite. The sun leans west. Shadows grow long and thin. Heat leaves the black rock in slow breaths. He measures the risk and chooses forward. One more twist on the wood. One more pull of the blade. One more heartbeat of borrowed time. The turnbuckle flexes to a shape it was never meant to take. A hairline in the cable winks like a promise. If the metal lets go now, all the force will snap home. If it yields by a breath, the circle can break. He braces the lever with his knee and feeds the blade into the hairline. Short strokes, patient pressure. The first strand parts with a sigh of filings. The second gives with a shiver he feels in his shoulders. He pauses, resets the hitch, adds a fallen branch as a guard over the loop so the snap will meet wood, not skin. He packs another band of cloth above the wound. The elephant stands because she chooses to. Breath steadies. Eyes hold, back and forth. The blade warms. Metal dust speckles his bandages like dark pollen. He swaps to a fresh segment of teeth, lowers the angle by a finger, and finds purchase. The cable begins to open like a zipper made of winter. He hears it in bone, not air. One more pull, and the final core wire thins to a silver hair. He calls the bobcat with only a look. The cat pads to the lever and sits where the rope meets stone, a quiet weight that keeps the world from slipping. Small pause, vast courage. He slides a flat shard of basalt between steel and flesh. He eases the blade along that shield. The strand snaps. The lever absorbs the recoil. The guard branch jumps and settles. The loop slackens a full inch. Blood beads, then stops. A narrow strip of pale skin shows where iron has lived too long. Steel cut skin. Trust cut deeper. He unwinds the windlass a half turn to bleed tension. He shifts the cable free of the groove it has carved. The anchor still holds, but the loop no longer owns the leg. He can work the bite without the canyon fighting back. He wedges two thin slats of driftwood beneath the hoop, lifts, and threads the blade through daylight for the first time. He does not hurry. The elephant sways once and then stills. Her ear flutters and rests. He reads the line of swelling, chooses the cleanest path, and commits. The hoop opens. He twists the broken ends wide with the old turnbuckle pin. One last snip with the saw's heel, and the circle falls away into his hand, a cold snake without a head. A circle broke. A vow began. The limb trembles and folds as he releases the last load. Rope loosens like a tired breath. He He drags the cable tail aside, unhooks the anchor ring from its buried staple, and pries the iron free with the fence post, heel down, spine braced. The canyon gives it back with a dull surrender. He rolls the anchor away from hooves and lets it sleep in the shade. He lifts water to the elephant's mouth. She drinks, then lowers her head as he cleans the angry groove with strips soaked from his canteen. Turmeric paste and honey seal the wet shine. Clay from the wash caps the dressing. He binds it light but sure. Her weight shifts onto the good limbs. The tremor in her flank fades to a quiet ripple. He guides her to a shallow basin carved in the basalt by storms long gone. He wades first and pats the surface. She steps in, knee by knee, until cool water covers the wound. Heat bleeds into stone. Relief moves through muscle like light across a plain. The bobcat drinks at the lip, head up, body long, eyes on the horizon. When the river wakes, loyalty holds. For 3 breaths the canyon feels whole. Vultures climb to higher circles. The cottonwood lets go of its last brittle leaf. He gathers the severed hoop and bends the memory until the ends meet without teeth. An open ring, a promise with no point. Wind lifts from the south. The air tastes like metal and rain. A smear of cloud builds along the mesas, dark at the belly, white at the rim. In the far distance, a single roll trembles the glass of basalt. The wash, empty for months, gives a first whisper under gravel. The bobcat looks upstream and flicks an ear. The elephant turns her head and listens with her whole body. Break promise. Wash remembers its name. The first surge shows as a tremble in gravel. Then the arroyo lifts its voice the way heat lifts from black glass, and water arrives not as a stream but as a wall. It carries branches and ash and wire. It carries everything the season forgot to bury. He moves before thought can argue. He gathers the sling, the rope ends, the canteen, and steps where the basalt rises like stairs. The elephant follows, chest heaving, wound bandaged, strength returning in careful rations. The bobcat runs the line of shadow along the wall, climbs, stops, looks back. It chooses the shelf with the widest back and the narrowest drop, and holds there like a lit match against stone. The flood spreads claws across the wash. A raft of thorn roots pins itself to an eddy and turns to knives. The slope they chose narrows to a funnel. The water wants to claim it. The man takes the high step and signals with his body, palms open, shoulders low, offering the path the cat found. The elephant reads him and begins the climb. A log rams the wall and breaks. The spray chills the bandage and the air. The current strikes the elephant's hind legs, buckles them for a breath, then lets go. She resets her stance and leans into the angle the canyon gives. The bobcat moves ahead and marks the next switchback with a stillness that feels like a stake driven into time. A whirlpool forms below, a mouth of silt and wire. Another surge will take the footing from under them. There is no bridge, no rope handrail, only inches and will. She steps down instead of up, 2 slow paces into the teeth of the current. She bends the trunk, fills it from a shallow ledge where the water only licks, and lifts the weight like an urn. She pours it on bandaged hands first, then turns and lets a thin stream fall over the bobcat's shoulders. Water on skin, water on fur, a small blessing passed from a great heart. She lowers a shoulder to the flow and becomes a wall. Ribs turn into a breakwater. Hide turns into shelter. He presses to her lee side. The bobcat slides between boot and rock, and the 3 bodies make a shape the flood cannot easily erase. Debris rides past, snarls, and tears free. The bandage holds. The wound stays clean. The path waits on the other side of this one long breath. A flood met a wall of will. When the surge loosens, she climbs again, 1 step, then another. The cat paces just ahead, placing paws where hooves will land, the way a lantern places its light. He takes the last shelf on hands and knees, and turns to offer nothing but presence and space. She clears the lip and stands in a hollow of cool rock. The bobcat slips in after, tail brushing his wrist like a signature on a page already written. Night drops with the last of the water. The canyon exhales steam and metallic smell. He binds the dressing again by feel and leans back into the basalt, every tendon empty and at peace. The elephant rests her trunk on the stone, so it spans them both with its shadow. The bobcat curls against his boot and sleeps like a promise. 3 lives, one silence. At dawn, the wash is a new country. Mud writes over old tracks. The anchor they stole from the earth lies half buried under drift, finished with its work. He finds the severed hoop in his pack and bends it once more, firming the shape until it becomes an open circle with no barb and no bite. He sets it on a sun-warmed ledge where light can learn it. The elephant stands strong on 4 sound points and tastes the air that belongs to her. Far down canyon, a vibration hums under the basalt, faint, familiar, like a voice she once followed across low country, a herd calling in a register only the ground can hear. She lifts her head, then lowers it toward the bobcat. The trunk loops a small arc in the air over the cat and the man, not touching, just naming. Then she turns and goes, steady, deliberate, into the long corridor of light between black walls. The bobcat watches until her back becomes a line, until the line becomes a notion, until only heat remembers. It touches the man's shin with a single step, then climbs the cottonwood and pours itself over the rim into another day. He stays a moment longer. He palms grit from his bandages, sips the last of the canteen, and looks at what the flood has left behind. Stripped branches, clean stone, a sky rinsed to a deeper blue. He pockets the open ring. He stands. On the ash-gray crust of morning mud, 3 trails peel away from one another without hurry, one broad and certain, one light and deft, one human and newly steady. In a canyon of ash and light, a small wild heart drew a map. A great one carried the storm, and a quiet hand kept the promise.